So when I first started trading the stock market, it was very intimidating and there was just a lot of stuff to learn. And I thought it'd be an interesting exercise to think about if I could go back in time when I first started trading the stock market, what would be like 5 pieces of information or advice I would give myself. And this is actually something that I made a video about before. It was actually my first YouTube video, but this time I do have a different list of 5 things to talk about. So we'll do a quick overview of that first video, and the tips that I had for that were to think about your risk tolerance. Obviously, if you give a position the opportunity to blow up your entire account, even if it's a 5% chance, if you do that 20 times, chances are you might have blown up your account. So, like, risk tolerance is a very important thing that you need to think about at all times when you're trading the stock market or when you're trading options. You really want to make sure that your max loss for any given position is offset by other positions and is something that you can actually handle. And especially if you're just starting out, like, only trade with money that you can possibly lose, because you're gonna lose at points. Uh, Another tip I had in my original video was that you should manage your mind and emotions. It's no secret that that is something that you need to do, because this is your money maker, and if it's not in the right state of mind, like, you probably shouldn't be trading that day. I mean, if you can't figure that out on your own, then you shouldn't be trading stock market, like in the day trading or trading options. Obviously, seek knowledge, continue to grow, build relationships. For me personally, I think that helped me learn the most was meeting the people that I did in the Discord servers and stuff like that. Uh, that really helped me get to the point where I am now. And then the last tip was to pregame or plan out your trades. But I wanted to challenge myself to come up with 5 new points. I think there is one that I kind of overlap with. But let's go ahead, because, a lot has changed in a year. So let's see how different the advice is. And hopefully you enjoy the video. So first off, don't hold on to your opinion, because, quite frankly, your opinion does not matter. Uh, I make opinions all the time about whether a stock's going to go up or down. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter. The market does not care what my individual opinion is. It doesn't care what your opinion is. What matters is the opinion of the overall market. So instead of thinking about what I think it's going to do, think about what you think the market thinks the stock is going to do. So I know it's like second level stuff there, right? You're going to be wrong, so don't die on a hill trying to defend a position just because you want to be right. Like, you need to be dynamic, able to get off your own idea and change with the new information that you acquire during a trade. So just be ready to let an idea die and go on to the next trade. Don't die on one trade. Put yourself into the next trade that's going to make you money. An example of this was actually a couple of weeks ago. I was trading Amazon, and I bought a put. No, I sold a put because I thought Amazon was going to go up, and it didn't. So then I closed that for a loss and turned it into a bear zebra and rolled that down to make up for the loss from the put that I sold, and was able to come out with the overall profit between those two trades. But had I held on to that put, I would have lost a lot of money during that day. So it's just an example of, you can be wrong, and just be ready to accept that and move on to the next trade. Plan ahead. I think my best trades are when I do write down a lot of stuff and plan out the trade. And lately I've been kind of slacking on that department. But when I'm talking about planning a trade, think about your price target, like when you want to get out. You don't necessarily have to get out, but you're looking at the chart to figure out where you think the stock is going to move when you're doing like a quick day trade, or when you're trying to sell a put or using options. And think about what price point are you going to try to get out of the position. So that's going to help you set your stop loss. Basically, you're trying to find a spot where if the stock went down to this point, then the trade I was in is probably no longer worth being in. Not necessarily looking at how much you're going to lose, but more so, this trade idea that I had is now invalidated because it dropped this much, and that's obviously not what I was expecting to happen. So think about what levels would indicate that you need to get out of the trade, not necessarily just how much you lose at that stopping point, although you should consider your max loss in those scenarios as well and factor that in. But just think about it on that next level of, when is this trade invalidated and how will I get out? And then think about profit taking. Something that I feel like I need to do a better job of doing is like figuring out when to start sizing out of a position. If you look at my trades for my last few weeks, like, I tend to go out all at the same time, so I don't let my winners actually run beyond that. Like I said, I really need to start working on my sizing out tactics. So like if I have 3 contracts on for the options play, then maybe close 2 and let one run a little longer. And it's just something that you can think about. If you plan this all out before you get in the trade, it's easier to execute when you're in the moment. But if you don't have all that planned out, you have to go to knee-jerk reactions to what the market's doing, and that's when we can make mistakes that could hurt ourselves. So plan ahead, think about the max loss, think about when your trade's invalidated, when you need to be dynamic. Uh, the next one is kind of goes with the planning one as well, but expect to lose. When I'm putting on my trades, like I just think about what the max loss is gonna be. Like I expect to lose, and then I'm pleasantly surprised when I'm right. And even in months where I like am right 100% of the time, which happened in March, and so far in May it's been pretty good. Uh, I go into the trades thinking that I'm gonna be wrong. Like the market doesn't care about if I'm right or wrong. It's gonna do what it's gonna do. Nobody can know exactly what the market's gonna do. I've yet to see anyone that could bet or predict 100% whether the stock's gonna go up or down. Just go in expecting to lose, and that kind of ties back to the planning part. So you got to plan where your max loss is going to be, like what are acceptable losses on this trade, and then hopefully you never have to implement those measures that will lock in those losses, kind of thing. But go in expecting to lose, and then just enjoy the highs that come up. Uh, Other thing I would tell myself is do not give up. The people that are successful in life are the ones that show up, are present in the moment, and don't quit. So just show up. You're gonna take losses, especially if you're starting out and you're learning. You're gonna make mistakes. It's going to happen. I think one of my biggest ones for me, or one of my first ones even, was Beyond Meat. Uh, this was like my 8th month into trading options, and I sold some puts before earnings, and those went deep in the money. And I ended up losing a little over $6,000, which to me at the time was like life changing money. Like, holy cow, like, what am I doing? Like, like it really shook me a little bit there. But I chose to continue, like, put that trade behind me, continue trading. And actually, that month ended up being my best month in realized premium at that point. So that was pretty good. But basically, you're going to take a big loss, and losses that look like something big now are going to seem just like a stepping stone in the future, something that you learn from. Uh, Try to learn from those losses if you can. Think about what you could have done differently, and just remember that like this too shall pass. Like you're going to lose, just move on to the next trade, and just continue trying to get better so that you don't do that same mistake again. So, an example of the Beyond Meat is now I don't trade during earnings, and if you look at just recently Netflix, I had a put sold on Netflix, and then I realized, holy cow, there's earnings coming up, and I ended up closing that out because I learned from Beyond Meat not to do that. And then Netflix went down, and that would have been like a $12,000 loss because I sold multiple puts. So like that small loss back when I first started, which seemed like a big deal, just saving money now because I learned a lesson during that time. So you're gonna lose. Get back on the horse and try again. And holy cow, we're flying through this video. So the last one is don't say the market is rigged. Like we all love to say that. You sell an option or you buy a stock and the stock moves against you and your stop loss hits instantly. And so you're like, the market is rigged. They saw my stop order to hit that. Like, no, nobody cares about you on an individual level. We're such a small fish as a retail investor. Nobody cares. There's just bigger fish in the sea that can move the stock in any direction they want if they just put their money into it. And then you have investors, or sorry, hedge funds, financial institutions that can move the market however they want. All we can do is try to like stay in there, get our little nibble, and get out quick with a profit. Uh, Take responsibility for your trades. If you're watching a YouTube channel, you see some YouTuber put on a new trade, and you follow that, and then you end up losing. Don't blame that person. Like, take responsibility. You're the one that put on that trade. We all have our own different risk tolerances, and it's up to you to determine where you're fine putting your money, because like it is your money. No one else is gonna care if you lose. So you have to care for yourself, if that makes sense. Like, take responsibility, try to learn from those trades, and don't just say, "Oh, it's rigged. There's no way I could win that one." There's probably a way that you could have managed that trade to either come out with a profit or limit the losses that you end up with. So just take responsibility and try to learn from that. And I think that kind of wraps it up. What would be 5 tips that you guys would give your former selves when you were first starting out? And let's start that discussion, guys. Thank you for watching.